A thief with an unassuming look hides a mind that works like a high-speed chess game. His plan unfolds in layers, each twist and unexpected turn setting the stage for a move even more daring than the last. At every moment, just when you think you've figured him out, he flips the script, leading to an ending so shocking it redefines the entire game. And make sure to subscribe, because only 1% of people have done it. So, subscribe now. Movie starts with Mason and Amelia, a couple flying in their private jet to attend a lavish party. Soon, they arrived at the venue and started enjoying the event. While mingling with the guests, they met Perez, the wealthiest man at the party and also the host. During their conversation, Mason mentioned his love for cars and his impressive car collection. So Perez, a car enthusiast himself, was thrilled to hear this and decided to take Mason and Amelia to his private garage to show off his prized collection. Among the cars, he proudly displayed his favorite car, and this one worth nearly $200 million. And fascinated by the car, Mason and Amelia asked if they could sit inside. Then Perez agreed, unaware of their real intentions. As soon as they got in, Amelia discreetly signaled a hacker named Link, and within seconds, all the lights in the garage went out. Taking advantage of the chaos, and Mason's men attacked Perez, knocking him to the ground. Without wasting any time, Mason started the car and sped away. It was then revealed that Mason and Amelia were not just ordinary guests, they were professional thieves. And their only goal at the party was to steal this luxury car. Then they quickly loaded the vehicle into a massive truck and attempted to escape the country. However, just before they could make their getaway, an FBI team began chasing them. Confused about how the FBI knew about their plan, Mason was caught off guard when Amelia suddenly pointed a gun at him. At that moment, everything became clear. Amelia was not a thief but an undercover FBI agent who had been pretending to love Mason just to catch him red-handed. Heartbroken, Mason realized he had been betrayed by someone he truly loved. But despite this, he remained composed and gave a signal to his team. As soon as they received the order, his men drove all their vehicles into the river, executing their backup plan. Although Mason and his team failed to steal the car, but Plan B allowed them to narrowly escape the FBI's grasp. Then, 3 months later, Mason had left his life of crime behind and was now living a simple life outside the city. One day, his younger brother Sean visited him with a proposal. He was planning a bank heist and wanted Mason to be a part of it. However, Mason refused, saying he was retired and didn't want to get involved in any more trouble. Despite Sean's repeated attempts to convince him, Mason stood firm. Before leaving, Sean handed Mason a phone, telling him to call if he changed his mind. Then days passed, but Mason didn't reconsider his decision. However, on the day of the heist, Link called Mason, asking why he was late for the mission. Confused and shocked, Mason realized that Sean had lied to the team, telling them that Mason had already agreed to join. Then, furious at his brother's deception, but knowing the situation was already out of control, Mason had no choice but to get involved to keep things from going wrong. Meanwhile, Sean was waiting inside a coffee shop across from the bank, watching the bank manager, who stopped by for coffee every day. As soon as the manager walked in, Sean approached him, pulled out a gun, and took him hostage. He then forced the terrified man toward the bank. Just as they were about to enter, Mason arrived and stopped them. He warned Sean that his plan was flawed and that they were all walking into a death trap. However, Sean insisted it was too late and their team had already infiltrated the bank. Left with no choice, Mason followed Sean inside, only to see that the entire crew had disguised themselves as customers, blending in perfectly. Sean then took the manager aside and ordered him to open the vault. However, instead of complying, the manager triggered the security alarm. Suddenly, chaos erupted and alarms blared, then panic spread, and armed security guards opened fire on the robbers. But Mason's team swiftly eliminated the security guards and took all the bank customers hostage. Manson then asked Sean to know the real target of this heist, and Sean revealed that they were looking for a specific locker belonging to a woman named Isabel Farrow. Inside that locker was a hard drive containing millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. Hearing this, Mason took the bank manager to the vault and ordered him to open the locker. However, there was a problem. The locker required 2 keys to open, one with the manager and the other with Isabel, the owner. Without both keys inserted simultaneously, the locker could not be opened. And here came the twist. Sean had no idea about the second key and had barged into the bank with his entire crew without proper planning. Realizing this, Mason was furious at Sean's incompetence. To salvage the situation, Mason ordered Link to hack the locker and bypass its security. Within minutes, Link worked her magic and successfully cracked the locker open. However, when they looked inside, there was no hard drive. Instead, the bank manager laughed and revealed that this was merely a decoy box, and he don't know about real one location. This infuriated Mason, and he lashed out at Sean for his reckless planning. Meanwhile, the FBI had already arrived outside the bank with an entire army of agents, and leading the operation was none other than Mason's ex-girlfriend, Amelia. Then Amelia quickly contacted the thieves, and Link attempted to stall her with distractions. However, Amelia was too smart to fall for such tricks. She demanded to put Mason on the line. Realizing that FBI wanted to speak directly with him, Link informed Mason. Before heading to the call, Mason instructed Sean to keep an eye on the manager and then rushed to Link's room. Then, the moment he heard Amelia's voice, old memories resurfaced. For a brief second, he felt the emotions of the past, but then he quickly snapped back to reality, reminding himself that Amelia was now his enemy, and she was here to take down his team. Then Mason initiated negotiations with Amelia, demanding that she move her team 50 feet away from the bank. Otherwise, he threatened to start killing the hostages one by one. Additionally, he requested pizza and beer for his team, and insisted that Amelia herself deliver the food inside the bank. Then Amelia agreed to his demands, but asked for 2 hostages to be released in exchange. Without hesitation, Mason accepted the deal. Then Mason's team moved all the hostages to the upper hall and waited for Amelia to arrive. A short while later, Amelia brought the food and entered the bank. Here she met Mason, who flirted with her and tried to engage in romantic conversation. However, Amelia ignored his words and demanded his surrender, but Mason refused outright and sent Amelia back outside. Afterward, he distributed the food to his crew and released 2 hostages, as per the deal. But suddenly, something unexpected happened. The bank manager attacked Sean, grabbed his gun, and attempted to escape, but Mason immediately chased after him, leading to a long pursuit. Finally, Mason caught the manager and interrogated him about Isabel Farrow. The manager revealed a shocking truth. Isabel was the wife of Abel, the most dangerous gangster in the country. And Abel was incredibly powerful, with strong political connections. Then, manager speculated that the hard drive contained evidence of corruption involving the country's most influential politicians. If that information were leaked, it could bring down the entire government. Despite learning this, Mason decided to steal the hard drive anyway, intending to blackmail the government to secure a safe exit from the bank. Meanwhile, outside the bank, a mysterious car arrived. Inside was Abel's lawyer, Alex. And Alex approached Amelia and gave her a direct order that if her team didn't capture the thieves within the next hour, the US Army would storm the bank. But Amelia was shocked and confused about who this man truly was. She immediately consulted her supervisor, who informed her that Alex was indeed Abel's lawyer. Her supervisor also confirmed that Abel had deep connections with the nation's most powerful politicians, making it impossible for the FBI to interfere. Then he warned Amelia that, get those thieves out of the bank as soon as possible. If the army enters, not only will the robbers die, but many hostages will be killed as well. Then Mason and his team began breaking through the locker room walls, believing that Isabel Farrow's vault was hidden in a secret chamber. However, every time they broke through one wall, another wall appeared, and slowing them down. Meanwhile, the US Army completely surrounded the bank and prepared for an all-out assault. Seeing this, Amelia called Mason and urged him to surrender, and warning that once the army entered, the thieves were as good as dead. But Mason had a plan. He told Amelia to leak the information to the media that the US Army was about to attack the bank, and if the press arrived, the army wouldn't be able to take action without public scrutiny. Then Amelia followed Mason's instructions and leaked the news. Within minutes, the media flooded the area and the news spread like wildfire. But FBI's head was furious at Amelia for this stunt and removed her from the case. Then he personally called Mason, giving him a final warning. If his team didn't surrender within 15 minutes, the army would storm the bank. But inside the bank, Mason's team finally found the hidden room containing Isabel's vault. So Mason immediately ordered Link to hack the vault, but Link revealed that its security was extremely strong and would take at least 10 minutes to bypass, but the army would enter in just 8 minutes. To buy more time, Mason decided to release the hostages one by one. Over the next few minutes, all hostages were freed. And finally, after releasing the bank manager, Mason's team members began surrendering one by one. Now, only Mason and Link remained inside the bank. This enraged the FBI chief, who then ordered the US Army to kill Mason on sight. Then Army stormed the bank and began hunting Mason like wild dogs. When they reached the vault room, they found Mason standing there holding a bomb. Before they could react, an explosion occurred, killing Mason and all the soldiers inside. But wait, if you think this is the end, think again, because a few months later, Amelia resigned from the FBI because she no longer wanted to work for corrupt officials. She then took a vacation to a private island, where Mason was already waiting for her. This was the biggest twist, because Mason and Amelia had been working together from the start. They intentionally failed the car heist to gain the FBI's trust on Amelia, Then the story jumps back in time to moments before the bank explosion. When the US Army entered, Mason made one final demand. He wanted to meet Alex, Abel's lawyer. Since Mason still held all the incriminating evidence, they reluctantly agreed. When Alex arrived, Mason threatened him. If he didn't transfer $500 million into Mason's account, Mason would expose all the corruption. Additionally, Mason demanded new identities for himself and his team so they could start fresh. Since Abel's entire empire was at stake, Alex had no choice but to comply. Then, a fake explosion was staged inside the bank, making it appear as if Mason had died in the blast. Meanwhile, Mason and Amelia escaped with their new identities, leaving their criminal past behind. They were now free and ready to start a new life together. So I hope you enjoyed this story. If you liked this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to leave a comment below. See you in this one.